Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Wire Right, your go-to podcast for insight into the vibrant telecommunication sector. I'm your host, yours truly, Latoyo Davy, and today we're diving deep into the ethics in telecommunication sector. We have a lineup of guests who will help us explore the topic. First up, let's welcome Mr. Micheal Crosdale, a senior policy analyst from the Ministry of Science, Energy, and Technology.
Thanks for having me.
Next, we have Ms. Atara Ried, a representative from the Office of Utility Regulation.
Thanks for having me, Latoyo.
Joining us from the industry side, we are pleased to have Mr. Tajay Lawrence, a telecommunication industry analyst.
Thank you for having me.
And last but not least, Ms. Courage, an ethics professor specialized in technology issues. Welcome to you all to this podcast.
Thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here.
We will now dive into the discussion. Micheal, let's start with you. Can you outline MSEC's role in the telecom sector and how it shapes the landscape?
Certainly, Latoya, and thanks again for having me. At MSET, we task with formulating policies that foster an innovative and competitive telecommunications environment. We focus on drafting initiatives and laws that address current needs and anticipate future trends, ensuring that Jamaica remains on the cutting edge of technology advancements.
Interesting. Atara, over to you. As someone from OUR, could you explain how to ensure these policies and standards are actually implemented?
Absolutely, Latoyo. OUR is critical in ensuring that the industry operates fairly and transparently. We grant license, set, and monitor service quality standards, and resolve disputes between operators and consumers. It's about maintaining a balance where competition can thrive while protecting consumer rights.
Thank you, Atara. Tajay, from an operator perspective, what are the biggest challenges you face in complying with these regulations?
Good question, Latoyo. While we strive to comply with the regulations set forth by OUR and other bodies, challenges include the high cost of infrastructure development and the fast pace of technological change. Meeting the rigorous standards of service quality while trying to stay financially viable is a constant balancing act.
That sounds quite challenging indeed. Courage, turning to you. How do consumers fit into this picture?
Okay, so consumers are central to you. They are not only users, but also the driving force that pushes operators and regulators to uphold high standards. So through the CAC, education on consumers' rights and assist in resolving issues like billing disputes or service interruptions is provided. And it's all about empowerment and ensuring fair treatment.
Thanks, Courage. I would like to ask each of you briefly, where do you see Jamaica's telecommunication sector heading in the next 5 years?
Well, for me, I see it becoming more integrated with global tech trends, particularly in digital transformation and sustainability practices.
I expect to see increased regulatory focus on cybersecurity and data protection as the online space expands.
I anticipate greater investment in 5G technology and improved service delivery across the island.
And I hope to see stronger consumer advocacy and greater involvement of consumers in shaping telecom services that are both affordable and reliable.
Thank you all for your invaluable insight on that. So, Micheal, from a regulatory perspective, how important is transparency for maintaining trust and confidence in telecommunications?
Well, Latoya, transparency is fundamental. It ensures that operators are not just compliant with the letters of the law, but also with the spirit of fairness and integrity that governs the sector. When companies are open about their operations, it builds trust not only with consumers, but also the investors and other stakeholders.
Absolutely. That trust is crucial. Courage, could you explain how ethical conduct in telecom companies protects consumers' rights?
Certainly, Latoyo. So, ethical conduct in telecommunication goes beyond legal compliance. It involves respecting the rights of every consumers, and this includes protecting their privacy and data, ensuring that they are informed about how their information is used, and maintaining the quality of service promised. So ethical practices help consumers feel secure in an increasingly digital world.
Well said, Courage. Atara, from your analysis, how does transparency influence competition among telecom companies?
Well, transparency acts like a level playing field, Latoya. When companies are transparent about pricing, service limitation, and network performances, it allows consumers to make informed decisions. This not only helps in preventing anti-competitive practice, but also encourages companies to improve their offering continually.
That makes sense, Atara. Now, Tajay, can you tell us how transparency and ethics impact the regulatory compliance of telecommunication companies?
Sure, Latoyo. Transparent communication with regulatory bodies like the OUR simplifies compliance monitoring and makes it easier to identify and correct lapses. It also reduces the likelihood of disputes and legal challenges. Essentially, when companies conduct their operations ethically and transparently, they're less likely to face regulatory penalties, which can be quite severe.
Thanks for that insight, Tajay. I would like to hear briefly from each of you about the future. How do you see the role of transparency and ethics evolving in telecommunication industry?
Well, I expect increased regulatory requirements around transparency, especially with new technologies like 5G and IoT coming into play.
Sure. And I also expect ethical considerations to become even more integrated into business strategies as companies recognize their role in upholding human rights and social responsibilities.
Definitely. I believe that transparency will become a major competitive advantage for companies. Those who are more open and honest are likely to attract more customers.
I see a future where consumers not only demand transparency and ethics, but also have the tools to hold companies accountable more effectively.
Thank you all for sharing your valuable perspective on this. So, my guests, let's dive into the big topic of corruption within the telecommunication sector. Micheal, could you outline for us the economic impact of corruption in telecommunication?
Certainly, Latoyo. Corruption in telecommunications create a significant economic drain. It diverts resources that could be used for innovation and infrastructure development, therefore oppressing economic growth. Additionally, the uncertainty and risk introduced by corruption discourage foreign investment, which is vital for the industry's competitive.
It is clear the economic consequences are profound. Tajay, for an insider perspective, how does corruption affect businesses operating within the sector?
Well, in my experience, corruption severely damages a company's reputation and can lead to substantial legal and regulatory risks. This not only results in financial losses, but also loss of business opportunities as fair competition is undermined. So companies not willing to engage in corrupt practices find themselves at a disadvantage, which can be incredibly frustrating and demoralizing.
That sounds incredibly challenging.
Yes, it
Yes,
does.
it does. It does, so true.
Yes, it does.
Atara, can you discuss the impact of corruption on governance and rule of law?
Of course, Latoyo. Well, corruption removes trust in public institutions and undermines the rule of law. In telecommunication, this means regulators and officials may be seen as biased or corrupt, and this damage their ability to enforce regulations effectively. This leads to a weakening governance structure where illegal activity can increase along with corruption.
Thank you, Atara. Courage, can you share with us the impact of corruption on the people?
Sure, Latoyo. So, corruption in the telecommunications sector negatively affects the people by restricting access to services, increasing costs, and compromising service quality. And this can lead to dropped calls, slow internet speeds, and network outage. And corruption also violates the privacy right of the people. It creates barriers to economic opportunities, poses health and safety risks, and erodes trust in government institutions. It also increases social and political challenges, which pose a financial burden on individuals.
Thank you for your alarming insight, Courage. Micheal, from a security standpoint, which risk does corruption pose?
Corruption can significantly compromise national security. It allows criminal elements potentially unauthorized access to critical telecommunications infrastructures. This could lead to espionage, cybercrime, and a host of other security breaches that not only threaten individual privacy, but also national security.
That's serious.
Yeah, really serious.
Thanks, Micheal. Now I would like to hear your thoughts on potential solution. How can the telecommunication sector combat these corruption challenges? Atara, let's start with you.
Well, transparency is key. Implementing clear and strict regulations with robust enforcement can prevent corruption practices. Additionally, promoting fair competition and reducing monopolistic control can help mitigate some of the economic impact we discussed.
True.
That's true.
From a cooperative perspective, fostering a culture of ethics and compliance is crucial. Companies should have a strict anti-corruption policy and whistleblowers protection to encourage transparency and accountability from within.
I couldn't agree more. Legally, strengthening anti-corporation laws and ensuring independency in the judiciary are vital steps. Public officials and regulatory bodies needs to be held at higher standards with clear consensus for violations.
Well said, Tajay. And on the security front, enhancing cybersecurity measures and regulatory oversight of critical infrastructure will be essential. It's also important to increase cooperation between the public and the private sectors to tackle these challenges effectively.
As we come to an end of this podcast, I want to thank all my guests for their expert insights. It's clear that tackling corruption in telecommunication requires a multifaceted approach involving economic strategies, legal reforms, corporate responsibility, and enhanced security measures. That's all for today on Wired Right. Thank you to our guests and listeners for joining us. Stay connected and informed as we continue to explore crucial issues affecting our world.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.